Hello and welcome to this week's coffee vlog. It's now Friday the, I don't know, what is it? 22nd of May. We're heading home at 6:30. I got a bit carried away. I started with this idea I'd pull all the pallets out of the little roaster room to sweep underneath them and swap them round for some maybe tidier looking ones, and one thing leads to another, and then you think, well, maybe I'll pull this out and maybe then I'll paint that bit again and make that tidier and then put some banners or something up. So it's kind of like gone from being, you know, I just pull some bits out to tidy up to I'll do a complete rejig of this bit at the same time. So yeah, so it just dragged on a bit later, but no doubt all weekend I'll be heading in to do bits and pieces. I've got loads of painting I want to get on with. Obviously now I've started on the little roaster room, I've got to kind of commit myself to finish off messing about with that. So I'll have to have a think about what I'm going to do with that, to be honest. Then, like I say, just painting in general, getting on with, pretty much sorted with the big roaster now, 30 kilo, it's all in place. Been roasting again this week with it, and reduced some of the smoke from the chaff collector, but it still produces a bit, and also there's still a bit of chaff comes out of the exhaust fan, both of which I believe are related to just the fact that I've got far too long ducting out, but I'm not really fancying paying for a intermediate fan, so I'm going to try and live with it and see how we get on. Basically, I might have to spring for one if it gets too annoying. But I mean, it's not like there's no smoke as such inside until I drop the coffee to cool, and then it leaks a bit from the chaff collector, but it's not really that much. So I don't know, I'll keep playing around and get there eventually. Air compressor tools turned up today, so that was pretty cool, because obviously got the air compressor for the roaster's doors, and it got a second outlet on it anyway, so I thought, what could do with making use of the outlet there, especially as I've invested in this great big thing, air compressor, and you know, I want to get the best value from it, so I bought a very cheap off eBay set of tools, but I just wanted to get something that I could use, to be honest. So this guy is incredibly just not going nowhere. See, we've got a problem. Don't know. I'd say he'd been to the pub, but he can't have been to the pub because they're all shut because of coronavirus. But he's not going up the hill very quickly at all, so who knows. So yeah, I thought I'd make use of it. Anyway, it's a cheaper set of tools, come with its own little springy cable that wasn't very long, and also wouldn't attach to the push fitting that I'd got on the air compressor. But I've worked out now I can use my John Guest 3/8 inch water hose for it. Works perfect, in fact. It push fits onto the thing all right. And I made myself out of some of the fittings a little connector so I could join it to the little orange hose, and then that hose is like a quick switch connector to go to the different tools. So I've got a air gun which I've been playing with, and it's awesome for cleaning the roasters off because it blows out obviously compressed air. So just go round them all with it, blast all the dust that's built up out anywhere, and then afterwards just give it a wipe down, and it's sorted. Then I've got a tire inflation tool with its own gauge and everything, so if I need to blow my tyres up at all, I don't have to get my little compressor out the back of the car, I can just make use of that. Then I've got a spray paint attachment and a cleaning attachment, but I'm not sure which is which because they both have tubs obviously that hang underneath it and you fill with something, whatever it may be. But there's no actual explanation in there which is which, so I've got to try and figure out which one I should be putting paint in and which one I should be putting cleaner in to spray and clean stuff off with. So but I'll mess about with them later. But like I said, the whole worthwhileness of the Escapade is this gun for squirting compressed air out. I'll probably just use that all the time. They're going to be great, especially even with a big one actually, because it'll, you know, you can reach up and blast all the bits, especially with all the chaff coming out the back of the exhaust fans. So, right, I shall go and drop these parcels off, and then I'll be back to do Mr. Analysis Words of Wisdom. Right, so I'm back. Dispensed with 25 parcels, filled up the petrol station. That made him super happy, of course. And now we shall do Mr. Analysis Words of Wisdom and then go home, because I'm a bit worn out as usual. Oh, the death of ITN's Ken Rees. Can you remember Richard Whiteley until he died in 2005, and do you still watch Countdown on the internet at all? No, I don't. I used to watch it when I was very young, to be honest, but no turkey holiday for me, my mum and dad, from today, next Friday. No chance of me going to the Toba factory at the moment either, is there? IKEA reopening on the 1st of June. What year is Callum in at school? We can't believe it's nearly 10 weeks of lockdown in our country, and the Spanish flu has 4 waves. There's a second wave of the coronavirus could come. A second wave of coronavirus will actually come, Richard, yes. Zero doubt about that at all. In fact, until they actually come up with a vaccine, I think we're kind of just stuck with it. Because, you know, there's no way of getting rid of it. As soon as one person has it, they pass it to everyone else. The more people mingle with other people, they're going to have to spread it about more and more. So, but I just don't see the lockdown can remain forever, because, you know, it's ruining businesses, ruining education for kids. You know, no matter how much homeschooling you do, it's not the same as getting up and going to school and doing stuff in school, and it's kind of affecting as well the social interaction that they have with school, because of course now they're just stuck at home not interacting socially at all, really. So they're going to lose this kind of thread of that. So I don't know what will happen. I mean, they say school to go back maybe start of June, but there's no real indication yet, because some say yes, some say no. Some of the actual teachers and the schools are saying that they don't think it's safe to do so, and of course there's always the sort of the blame liability as well, because, you know, if it goes into one school, and it only takes one kid to have got it and not shown symptoms at home, or, you know, a family member's got it, they haven't shown symptoms, they pass it on to the kid goes to school, they start passing it around, some kids get sick, families of the kids get sick, then everyone's like, well, who did it, who blamed it, and, you know, yeah, that could all be a bit of a nightmare. So I don't know, I can't say I blame the schools, to be honest, about being a bit worried about having them back in mass, but who knows, in a way you've got to have some normality come back to life, haven't you? So other exciting things that I've been having, nothing hugely, just the usual work last weekend.
Warning,
just
risk zone,
yeah, pretty average weekend at work, to be honest. As I just got on with more painting. I painted up the wall up where I put the new ducting up through the roof, actually. It was really from previously, and there's not anymore, but there was like a leak, and all the paint had peeled off in that corner, and it looked like quite grotty. You had like white, and then you had the raw stone where the paint had come off and all mucky. So
risk zone, speed limit,
painted all that now and it looks better, but I'm having to head all the way across it. And it's quite high up, so I've got to use the really tall ladders for it as well, so it's a bit of a job. That was most of the weekend, was just doing some painting and started doing a bit more of the ceiling that I should have finished before the roaster came, but doing it now the roaster's there. Funny enough, I got exactly where the roaster stands done, so it's not as bad as it seems, because I don't have to try and get on top of the roaster or anything to do it. But it is sort of now, I've got all the ducting in the way and all the cables that hang in the ducting in the way, so that's making it a bit more awkward to get into. But yeah, I'll keep soldering on with it. Also, fun enough, a bit of an extended tale. The Apple Time Capsule I got many years ago.
Radar, check speed.
First generation one. I've been using at home. Obviously, I got it cheap off eBay, like most things, because it was bust. Because the power adapters kept failing in them. They overheated and burnt out the capacitor. So I'd picked it up cheap, knowing that this was the problem, and I got a little kit where you could solder your own capacitors back on, take the broken ones off, put your old ones back on, and it would work again. Did that, and lo and behold, it did work, and it's worked for many, many years. And then last August, it shut off. There was no power to it for a couple of days. I was like, oh, it's giving up the ghost now. I was like, oh, I'll tell you what, I'll have a look and see if I can pick up another one, but it's not working. But maybe a newer generation, because that was quite old. The internet bit of it was a bit slow and useless if you connect it to the internet portion as a Wi-Fi router, so I avoided using it for that. Well, initially I'd had it as like a legacy one, because some really old devices wouldn't connect to the modern Wi-Fi bands, but the trouble was everything else had this tendency sometimes to just lock on and join it instead of the faster ones, and then you'd be sat away thinking, God, the internet's terribly slow, and then you realise it's connected to the one that's rubbish, and you have to change back to the fast ones, and it's all good again. So anyway, it stopped. So I had a look, and I found a newer version, newer generation, which was again dead. But it seemed the newer generations, they got rid of the problem with the power supply and created a new one where it's still overheated, and instead the motherboard basically died because the solder's got little cracks in them from getting too hot, and then obviously you just got no connection to bits that needed to connect. So I'd got that, and you could definitely tell if it was the power supply or not, because if you plugged it in and listened to it, you could hear the hard drive spinning if it wasn't if the power supply was working still, but you'd get no lights or anything because it was the main board that had the problem. Now, I did that, and sure enough, I could hear the hard drive going in it, even though there was no light. So it obviously was the main board problem. And having previous experience with my old MacBook Pro of reflowing the solder joints with a hot air gun, I thought, right, I'm going to go with this one. Might work. Couldn't actually be bothered stripping the whole thing out of its case, so I ended up just taking the hard drive out and the power supply out, leaving the actual main board sat in there, and just hot air gunned it while it was inside. So I gave it a good blast for, I don't know, it's a couple of minutes I think you have, until you can see the solder starting to glisten slightly as it starts melting. Obviously you don't want to do it too long, or you just melt everything to bits and it'll never work again. Just enough to reflow those solder joints. So did that, and then left it for many hours to cool back down again, put it all back together, and lo and behold, it booted up, worked fine. But in the meantime of all this happening, the old one that I got it to replace just started working again. Power came back on all of a sudden, because I'd left it all plugged in, And it just worked again. So I was like, oh. So I ended up, I used the newer one at work, but took its 2 terabyte drive out, which I stuck in the lad's gaming PC, been working great since. That added plenty of extra storage for all these VR games. And I just stuck like a 500 gigabyte ad kicking about in there, because I didn't need it a lot at work, just for the odds and ends of files that we could share between the different computers. So, oh, that's a fancy car, isn't it? Did that. And the old one worked fine until about 6 weeks ago. And then the old one at home decided it was going to die, typically. So I was like, oh. And I didn't really want to fix it. So I thought, well, I know, I'll see if I can get one of the newer generations, the tall ones, time capsules. And I had to go, but they want so much, that everyone wants like 80 quid plus for them. It's really expensive. And they're old and discontinued now anyway, so it's not worth it. So I kept looking and looking. I didn't find any. And in the end, we had trouble with my Virgin Media box, which eventually got replaced. So I brought a Wi-Fi router from work to provide the Wi-Fi, because I had to turn the Wi-Fi off on the Virgin thing, and that kind of resolved the Wi-Fi connection issues I wanted from the time capsule. Then I got the new Virgin Meter hub, which was even better, and that got super good Wi-Fi as well. So realistically, I was like, well, maybe I should just give up on trying to get the new version time capsule and fix the old one, because you can actually just buy now the power supplies for them, all plenty, and they're only like £9. So I thought, right, I'll buy that, and I bought a 2 terabyte hard drive for £25. So for £35, I upgraded it to a 2 terabyte, and instead of spending 80 odd pounds on an older one, just refitted my original version, and it worked fine. Strange people. So all working again, all good. So yeah, it's up and running, working fine, and I'm starting to restore all stuff on it. So great, very happy. Right, I think I shall get in now and go and relax. So have a good weekend, next week, and I'll catch you in next week's coffee vlog. Okay, see ya.